Hey everyone, welcome back to This 6 Cover. Appreciate you showing up. Today we are doing some training with what I call my training, it's the Ruger RPR.
Guys, this is a really effective way, cost-effective way to practice your long game and work on positions without breaking the bank. So Rick and I are planning on shooting a match together this fall. It'll be out west. And so I'm going to run them through some scenarios, but you guys can do some learning along the way because I'll kind of set it up exactly how a match is.
You guys can do this when you after you watch the videos.
Yeah, so typically you'll have, 5, 10 people or teams in a squad. You'll show up to the stage. Let's say this is stage one, the first stage of the day. You're going to meet an RO, a range officer, and that range officer is going to make sure you have all your gear and everything else. This is a really good time for you to put your gear on the ground, set it down. So Rick, you can go ahead and set it down. And everybody's going to kind of be spread out. Now, sometimes there's blind stages, sometimes there's stages that aren't blind. This will be a stage that is not blind. This is when you need a notepad and a pen and usually your rangefinder. What's going to happen now is he's like, all right, everybody gather around. And what he's going to do is he's going to read from a sheet of paper verbatim. This is not the time for you to ask questions. Let the RO go through the stage brief before you start asking questions. Typically, they will not simulate the movements. They will actually read straight from the sheet. So from the sheet, this is something I just came up with in my head, and this is what he's going to do.
Uh-oh.
Competitor will start in the standing position just short of the platform. Upon the start signal, shooter will move to the lower position and from the top of the bench through the slats will engage the first Know Your Limits target, being the KYL 2-inch round steel. Shooter will then show a clear bolt and advance to the top of the platform. From the top of the platform, from the seated position, anywhere on the bench, the shooter must engage the bore on the left side. That bore, guys, is about 2 inches. Upon engaging that target, shooter will show clear with an open bolt or safety on, sometimes is how they word it. From anywhere on the platform with both knees on the platform, the shooter must engage the ram. From this position, the shooter will then advance to the back of the bed of the Ranger, and from the bed of the Ranger, from the top of the bed itself, the shooter will engage the steel behind the tree. Upon engaging that target, shooter will show clear or safety on, bolt back or safety on. The shooter will then move to a position on top of the tire. Rifle must touch the top of the tire and engage the golf ball at approximately 90 yards. So that golf ball is 1.5 inches. So once he does that, he'll say, your prep time begins now. And you're typically going to have 5 minutes to get your game plan on. Now, you can use any of the gear that you brought, whether it's in a backpack or anything else, but nothing will touch the ground on the start signal. If you wanted to use a tripod, this is your time to be taking those. You already took your notes. This is your time to get this tripod set up for the position that you're going to be in. But when your name is called to start, this has to be off the ground. All gear has to be off the ground. And as soon as that buzzer goes off, you can set it down, but typically gear has to be within arm's reach. So when he's off the platform, when he moves to the Ranger, he can't leave gear here. He has to take it with him. Now this is usually true whether it's a team match or an individual match. So Rick, do you have any questions? Right now he's solving his dope because on a 22 long rifle, for example, that target at 50 yards, if he's got a 100-yard zero on it, he's going to be down about 2 minutes or 2 mils. Yeah, 1.8 mils, he's going to be low, so he's going to have to adjust for that or dial it. Good way to get that training. Now, the way the squads work, what they'll do is they'll say, Rick is our shooter, Ray is on deck, John is in the hole. Now, if it's a multi-day event, don't think just because the order was this the first day, because what's going to happen is after he shoots, he goes to the back of the squad, and then it'll advance through. So at some point, even on a 3-gun match, chances are you will end up shooting first at some point, even if your first name or your last name starts with A. Those guys are unlucky. They usually go first on the first day. I have some friends that have A in their last name. You know who you are. All right, so at this 5-minute prep time, and we're almost done. I'm gonna make this prep time pretty quick here. This is when you should ask questions.
No pressure.
Not when they call Rick to shoot and he's like, well, RO, can I do that? That's not the time to do that. You've had your 5 minutes. So we're going to count it down. They'll give you like a 1 minute warning sometimes. And it will look like this. Where's my shooter, Rick?
He left.
All right, so start position is there. Shooter, do you understand the course fire? Let's go ahead and get your eyes and ears on.
I'm just going.
He's okay. He's okay on the eyes because he's got a scoped rifle and the steel is far enough we're not worried about. Give me a nod when ready.
1 sec.
And guys, your game plan should be solid in that head, okay?
Ready.
Stand by, go. So remember, gear has to be within an arm's length. As long as you can touch it, you're good. So I guess he's staging it for when he goes later. So what he's doing now is he is loading. And he has to be aware of his muzzle discipline when he moves. Impact! So he's got to show clear, but he's still got to watch the 180. 180 also goes this way too, so you can't break that plane. Good use of the tripod from the seated position. If your platform is not right, when you're building that base, make it right. Remember, I say you can never miss fast enough.
1.6.
Impact. So now he's got to move to the platform. He's going to have his knees on the deck. And you always have to call out your target that you're going to. You can't assume that the RO knows.
70. 1.3.
So I would have not chosen that position.
I don't know why I did.
You have that second mag? Okay. Just making sure. Now guys, the target he's going for is about that big, okay?
I have to be on my knees.
Yep. And the RO is not going to say things most of the time. So if you shoot it and you're waiting on the hit, it's like both knees have to be on the deck. Impact. Shooter has to show clear with his bolt open. All of his gear is going with him. Now there is a hidden target down there. Let me see if I can clear this up a little bit. There you go.
Behind the tree.
It's behind the tree. On it.
0.9. Dang it. Don't hit it. Yeah, I did. Right over the shoulder.
Impact. Now his last position is a golf ball. And it is swinging. Is it still there? Or did it come off?
No, it fell off. I'll hit that
Okay, good
instead.
enough. He hit that one instead. Either way, it's great training. Rick, what'd you think about that? It's tough, isn't it?
It is, but you only get better if you keep practicing.
That's right. And so at this point, he would show clear. He would take his magazine out. He's off the line, and they'll call the next shooter. Heck, I might even try it. All right, guys, so if I'm not going to be using the object, I don't need it. I can throw it in my backpack. So at this point, I would jettison this. This would go in my backpack or whatever I'd set on the ground when I start. So for this scenario, what I'll do is I'm just going to pretend I have a backpack, and I'll just put it in my pocket. As far as what I would use for this stage, I'm going to use the tripod And I would use that bag right there. On this bag right here, depending on how he's got this thing set up, you know what? I'm not going to break his Kestrel mount. So I'm going to take this off. Something else to go in the backpack, but I'm not going to carry it in there. For me, I would probably run this setup here or something like this for stability. But I want to make sure that I could get it on the tripod itself because I still have to be able to use the tripod. So I would have this bag with me. Magazine in hand.
All right. Understand the course of fire.
I do.
All right. Shooter ready.
Yep.
Stand by. Beep.
So I'm going to set that up in a position that I'm going to need it in. I'm going to drop my bag. I'm going to come down into here. At this point, I haven't loaded a mag, so it's what they call a dead stick. They don't care about the muzzle direction usually. Now, Rick had left a piece of gear down here. I see it down here now. It is your other squeeze bag. RO, first target. Spinner. I'm going off Rick's dope. So action's open, still watching my 180. And everything was still within an arm's reach. So now we're gonna go for the bore. Ram. Gear must go with me. Target behind the tree. Golf ball at 100, or right at 100. Get your parallax, get everything right because you can't miss fast enough. Okay, so on this position right here, you'll notice what I did is I was floating a little bit, but I braced up against this RV, and then or the Ranger, and then I put this here so it elevated the back elbow. It's solid, but remember, Rick wasn't shooting at the golf ball. That golf ball's tough. It's 1.5 inches. So those are some things. So at the end, what they're going to say is, all right, shooter, unload and show clear. You have to take your mag out, let them see into the bolt area, and you're good. It's great training. Good way to work on some drills, especially with the 22. All right, Rick.
How to do this. I'll show you how to do this, Ray.
All right, guys, while he's getting prepped up for this, do not be afraid to configure your gear to how it's needed. You don't need everything in the kitchen sink hanging off of it if you don't need it on the stage. Just throw it in your pack because your pack's going to go along with you. I try not to shoot with a pack unless there's a lot of movement because that pack can sway your body. You just set it on the ground beside of you. So Rick's getting his tripod set up. He's still in his prep time. Okay, so the way he's got his tripod set up is not the best because when he pushes on it, it tilts forwards. Have a leg forwards towards the target, aim it towards the target. That way you can press into it. Now, you have to know your equipment. And what that means is he's not, yeah, there you go. Know what's right. That is a hog saddle on the tripod there. It's on a Night Force. It's a lightweight tripod. There's a reason why he's using that extension. Extension creates a lot of movement. You always want it closer to the triangle, but he needs the height, but he doesn't want to readjust, especially if he's going to shoot it from the kneeling position on the second. There you go, just like that. All right, so he's running out of prep time. He's got like 30 seconds. That's why I love those plastic carabiners, because you can clip it to your gear. Typically won't use it or lose it. I typically go through a belt loop.
I'm putting this in my backpack. Okay.
Just throw it in your pocket. Okay, that's in his pack.
My pack's over there.
Well, pretend the pack is traveling with him. First shooter, Rick. I need my shooter. All right, Rick, you understand this course of fire?
Yeah.
All right, all equipment off the ground. Give me a nod when ready.
Ready.
Shooter in the cage ready. Stand by. Go. Now, at the start, his rifle is a dead stick because he hasn't loaded it, so they really don't care about breaking the 180, but from this point on, he needs to watch his muzzle discipline. Has to be off the step, off the seat.
All right, first target, 2-inch spinner.
On it.
Just right. Sliding down the hill.
Impact. Guys on positions like these do not rest on your barrel. He wasn't, but you need to be cognizant of that. Now his butt needed to be on the seat.
Next target, bore at 61.6 down.
On it.
Impact.
Impact.
Next target, ram, 1.6. Both knees on the ground.
Impact. Don't forget your gear.
Hit the target. On it.
On it.
70, 1.3.
Impact.
Golf ball. 100, 0.
Impact. If you are finished, unload and show clear.
Damn, I won.
Show me a clear chamber. Remove your magazine. All right, next shooter. That's how it's going to run, guys. Good run, Rick.
Thanks. Good practice. Still running?
Yep.
This is a good course. Cheap. 22 long rifle. I think me being able to utilize this scope on here, because it is the same reticle, is a huge, me trying to train and doing holdovers.
It's the same everything. It's just a
everything.
different chassis.
Yeah, and a lot cheaper. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I did.